How are you doing, pal?
Good, Pat. Good. How's it going?
Good.
Hey,
Go ahead.
you're a little too hard on me on those Jets. I thought Coach Law did a good job with that team, rebuilding the culture and all that. Last 2 weeks, I don't know. I don't know if they were a lot better on defense when he was there.
Okay, so is that something that maybe is not being talked about? Is the absence of solid defensive strategy with how their entire playing? And what are your thoughts on this Jets season? They're seemingly going all in here. 2-5, whatever the record is, not great at this standpoint. You think they have enough talent to turn it around, or what are you seeing from this Jets team?
Well, I just don't understand the head coaching move. That's all. But I mean, the Jets are the Jets, and Woody's Woody, so Woody's Woody.
He's an ambassador. He's an ambassador, Johnson, not Wood. Ambassador Johnson. Bill, obviously.
Yeah. So is this a big AFC East show today? Is that the story?
Well, let's talk about that. Drake May's the guy.
Yep.
Drake May's seemingly the guy. Anytime a coach comes out, and obviously you're very close to the New England Patriots, and I think the way that Indiana university fans view Indiana basketball is because of what Bob Knight did back in the 70s. I think New England Patriots fans, for the rest of their existence, will compare Patriots to how you operated with the New England Patriots. So to see a kick go back, and then for Coach Mayo to come out and say, we're a soft football team, that's almost like the worst thing you can say about a team, I think, if you're describing the football. What are your thoughts on that up there? Should Connor continue to have optimism because Drake May is showing promise for the future? Or what are your thoughts on the Patriots right now?
Yeah, well, I think Drake May's done some good things. In the end, we'll see how it goes when situations get a little more competitive and all that. But, defensively, the Patriots led the league last year in rushing defense, yards per carry, number 1 in the league. And this year they're way down in the 20s somewhere. It's the same guys. They re-signed Jennings, they re-signed Tavai, they re-signed obviously Duggar, right? Marcus Jones and Gonzalez have been healthy all year, which they were both on IR at this point last year. So you got Wise, you got Godshaw, you got Keon White, you got Mapu. You got Gonzalez, 3 rookies from last year. So it's a lot of the same players. And in some cases, I would say more. So I don't, I'm kind of hurt for those guys because to call them soft, they're not soft. They were the best team in the league last year against the run. And those guys went out there and did it, even though we couldn't score many points offensively. So I don't know. I feel bad for the defensive players on that one because those guys, that's a tough group. I mean, John Jones, Godshaw, Wise, Jennings, those are all Uche. Those guys are all tough players. Like they'll strap it up and go. Duggar, I mean, they're tough guys.
Getting called soft is a very slanderous term in the football world.
Yep.
I mean, that is real deal. So maybe coach is just trying to pivot them into getting. Go ahead.
And Pat, look. You're like the best punter we've ever played against, okay? So I'm going to go on record and say that, okay? You were a pain in the ass on the kickoffs.
Thank you.
You were brutal on the punts, the fake punts, and all that. But I'll still say I don't understand why punters just want to punt the ball straight down the middle against good returners.
Yeah.
And, okay, it comes back 97 yards, but, I mean, look, it's hard. It's hard when you lay it right down the middle, like right down the middle of the field, and you got to cover all 53 1/3 yards, and you outkick the coverage, and then, that's what's going to happen. And I told you that Pac-Man, that's what Sauerbrunn did. He put it right down the middle against Pac-Man. You know what? Pac-Man 85-yarded us after 10 people told him not to do that. You just can't do that against good returners. And I watch him do it against Turpin, in the Cleveland game, and watch him do. I mean, it happens week. I don't understand why you put it right down. Now, I get it. Behringer might lead the league in average. He might. It'll be close. He's right up there. He's got an 80-yarder, a 70-some yarder. But they're so hard to cover.
Yeah, I agree. And that is really
right down. And look, if you're going to go down the middle, then put some hang time on the ball. Get it up there. But those 4-second 69-yarders they're hard to cover. AJ, right?
Out of bounds.
I mean,
Coach, I've been telling Pat.
The ball's kicked. You can't leave
I played
it till the
wing,
ball's
Coach.
kicked. You got
I
to
played
run
wing. I wanted the
60
ball out of
yards in
bounds.
4 seconds. It can't happen.
Yeah, it's impossible, especially, if your two gunners get blocked up, and a two-way go is a nightmare for any coverage team. I mean, that's legitimately the case. Back in the day, it feels like guys used to launch it a lot more, but now that every team has a returner that's like 4.25 or 4.3, it wasn't like, now it's like every team has a guy that can go. I think like the last decade or two, maybe, it kind of got introduced to the game that special teams could be a weapon. But you're right, you hit a low one down the middle, you're asking for it. Antonio Brown.
Yeah, I mean, look, the cover.
Look,
you got to cover the kick wherever it goes and whatever the hang time is. Like, I'm not taking any special teams coverage unit off the hook, even on bad kicks, because they're going to happen. But I mean, the more of them you lay down the middle, the more you're asking for trouble, the harder it is. I mean, that's hard.
Yeah, agreed.
It's hard to cover the whole field when you got the two gunners, the only guys that can leave, and you got everybody else bottled up in there. And I mean, it's hard.
Yeah. Hey, Behringer, figure it out, pal. You can tell, though, the teams that are really stressing on it, though, because their punter's normally better at it than, like, Behringer, Young, right? I think his second year, this guy, second year. So maybe they're not as harping on it, but it's like you hit one of those in the alley in between numbers and hash marks, and you get it taken back on you, like I have. I mean, that's an immediate next day, like, hey, that shit can't happen. Like, if you want to be a good punter in this league, that shit cannot happen. It's real. The NFL's too damn good. Defense and special teams up there in New England going to be judged forever because of the way you kind of treated it, and they're in the middle of that right now, especially when you lose to the Jags.
Yeah. Yikes.
Yikes. Doug Peterson happy?
Kind of.
Well, I mean, look, the Jags haven't been able to run the ball all year, but, they did a good job yesterday, and that really helped them out, especially in the fourth quarter when they, were milking the clock and, kind of drove it down the field. So, you know what? I think if they commit to the running game and get their running game going, that would help Trevor Lawrence tremendously, so he doesn't have to go back there 45 times every game. Like, give him a chance to run, call some runs.
Good luck, Jags. Pulling for you.
Good luck.
You too, Trevor. Go ahead, AJ.
Coach, getting back to the Jets quickly, I know after the game, Aaron Rodgers said something about the energy being flat in pregame. It just felt weird and it wasn't there. I'm just wondering, as a coach, like, have you ever had to, come out to pregame or in the locker room, it feels different and you have to do something drastic to maybe snap them out of it? I know I've had coaches where all of a sudden we got full-go scrimmage going on and warm-ups now, ones-on-ones to try to wake us up. Like, can you do anything like that?
I tried that out at the Pro Bowl one time. No. You know what? I think sometimes you get that feeling in the locker room, and you kind of go to some of your your leaders and say, hey, how are we doing here today? I don't feel great about this one, but you know what? It's hard to read. It really is. Some guys, they're very quiet in the locker room. Some teams are quiet in the locker room. Then they burst out onto the scene and just explode, and it's nothing like what's in the locker room. I've seen other players in the locker room hooping and hollering and everything, go out there and play terribly. So I don't think there's, in the NFL, I don't think there's too much to read into pregame warmups or the pregame locker room, unless you have a real good sense for your team, and maybe there's certain guys who can get it going. But like Sayal was one of those. Junior was a pretty emotional guy, but there are not many like him. I would just say there's not a lot like him, and really nothing gets it going more than going out there and playing well. That's what gets everything going. And when your fans get going, like, that brings a lot of energy into the stadium. Of course, you can't get that on the road, but playing well early in the game, getting the fans into it, getting the crowd into it, that definitely helps.
In Vegas, you can get it going no matter what team you are. What was your pregame routine? You just spun the shit out of that whistle? Is that what you did? Did you listen? You listen to music? What was your go-to? What was your go-to before the game?
Well, no whistle on game day, Pat. That was the practice routine. No whistle on game day. Can't take a whistle out there on game day.
I disagree. Mangini, what was his name?
Mark Mangino.
Mark Mangino. He had a whistle when he was shitting. He had a whistle when he was showering. Mm-hmm. Same thing. Well, he had a whistle when he was on the field and when he was off the field, Coach. So I just want to say there are, kind of exceptions to the rule. Okay. Just want to let you know.
All right.
To the rule.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never had a whistle on game day.
What did you do? Did you listen to music before a game? You watch more film? What was did you have a pregame routine?
Yeah, honestly, try to watch a little bit more film, try to go back through and just, refresh myself on what were the main points in the game. What do I want to make sure that, because by the end of the week, as you know, AJ, better than anybody, you get the game plan and every play is like, if they do this, we watch out for that. And if we do this, you got to do this and make this adjustment. If that guy does this and if this guy does that, And at some point, you just got to bring it back to like, all right, what do we have to do here? I can't get caught up in every little detail and every adjustment. And coaches do that. We all do it. You give the players 2,000 things to think about. And in the end, if you do 4 right, you'll win. And if you do those 4 and you can't do those 4, you'll lose. So the details are important. I'm not saying that, but you got to get the big things right.
Well, little things lead to the big things. You see.
Well, sure they do.
Yeah.
But if you can't tackle, if you can't run the ball in the C gap, if you can't cover kicks, if you can't jam the receivers in zone cover, if you can't do those things right, then I mean the rest of it. If you can't tackle, what difference is it? You're not going to win.
Yeah.
And Coach Parcells was like that. Coach Parcells is like that. He would come on the plane. He did this a couple times. Honestly, it was great. I mean, I love this because this was back in the, we didn't even have computers. Well, I mean, everybody else had them, but I didn't have them. I couldn't turn them on. It'd be like, this is in the 90s with the Jets or whatever. And you go, you know what? All the coaches are sitting there. They got their computers and they got they're typing stuff and everything. Parcells, he walked in on a plane one day. He's like, you know what? You guys, those stupid computers, like that's just a pile of BS. The reason we got beat today is because we couldn't run the ball and because we couldn't tackle. You could take all that crap and throw it out the plane in the window because it doesn't make a damn bit of difference. Here's what we got to do to win. Why don't you just forget about all that crap and teach our players how to tackle and run the ball? And you know what? That was about right. That was about right.
It's still the same way, too. So we got a lot more analytics now. We got a lot more analytics. You're about to say that's where it came from?
No, I'm saying is that where open field tackling drills to open up pretty much every practice came from?
Open field tackling drills, goal line tackling drills, circle chase, all that. Remember, tackling drills every day, D-Butt.
Yep.
Every day. Tackling drills every day and ball security every day. Nothing more important than tackling and ball security.
When would you run that hill? That's from like all the documentaries. And I heard you phrase it one time as store it for later, I think is how you described.
Yeah, the bank. The hill was the bank. The hill was the bank. You go to the hill to make a deposit. You put conditioning in the bank. And then when you need it in the fourth quarter, then it's there for you. Then you take the withdrawal out. That's when you take it out. But you go to the bank. That's when you put the deposit in. You run when you're tired. Yes, you condition when you're tired. That's how you build your conditioning past the point of what you really need. So it's always there when you need it. You know it's in the bank.
God, I wish I had that mindset for running.
Yeah.
With like getting punished pretty much, and I'm 37 and I can't break it. I go run and I'm like, I hate this. Instead, when I heard the do your job and you said store it or put it in the bank, like my head was like, that's how I should be viewing this thing. Brilliant mindset there.
You know what's amazing, Pat, is when we would have a fumbled quarterback center exchange, right? And for every fumbled quarterback center exchange, the center and the quarterback after practice would go to the hill, the center would snap the ball to the quarterback, and they both would run up the hill 20 times. Okay? For each fumbled exchange, it was 20 times up the hill. So take the snap from center and then run up the hill and then come back and do it again. And you know what? Those fumbled exchanges, they went down to 0 in training camp.
Yeah, I can imagine.
They went down to 0. No matter what happened, we're going to get the quarterback center exchange. Or we practiced it after practice. You know what? I don't know if the hill had anything to do with it or not.
Definitely.
But it was amazing how few fumbled snaps we had once the center and the quarterback ran up the hill after they snapped the ball after practice. That trimmed those down almost to 0.
I would assume, the attention to detail certainly goes up when the alternative is 20. I did not think 20 was coming out there. I thought it was going to be 5, maybe 10 for each one.
I thought it was one each.
20, yeah. There was a 20. I couldn't even imagine if I was new there and I third string quarterback trying to make the team. We bobble one. All right, go over to the hill. All right, you guys are going to the hill after practice, getting over there. How many of these we got? 20. Holy shit. And then all of a sudden that goes down to 0. Yeah, and we are catching that ball out of midair if that thing's bobbling.
Russ.
So we don't have to do that. That's
just do it. Just do it right. But look, I don't care if you play high school, college, professional football. I don't care what level of football you play. If you can't execute the quarterback center snap, you can't play football. It's the most basic play in football. If you can't get that right, then you might as well forget it. You can't run any play.
Isn't it amazing? You tackle, okay, and you run the ball, and and you get the exchange from the quarterback to the center, you can play football.
That's all it takes.
It's always going to be that way, Coach. Now, there's a team winning right now that I don't think has pieced it really together yet. Quarterback playing and having stats that we've never seen from him. Ty has a question for you.
Yeah, Coach, a couple weeks ago, you said something to the effect of sometimes it's almost better for your team to lose than to, play really bad and win, because then you can really emphasize, hey, this is what we need to fix going forward. When you look at the Chiefs, they haven't been great, but they're undefeated. Pat mentioned it. Mahomes, statistically at least, has had by far the worst year of his career thus far. What's your take on them so far? And do you think, if they do put everything together and they play their A-plus game, that they're damn near unbeatable?
Well, look, I don't think anybody in this league's unbeatable, but I think that they found a way to win here in spite of the situation that they've been in. They had some receiver issues in this game, as did San Francisco. So they had a couple of guys that were hurt. Then Juju got hurt. And they've had issues at running back. I think once they get everybody back out there, they'll be better offensively. But in the meantime, they find a way to win. And I think if you look at the end of the game, where Patrick's rating is like 44 or whatever it was, he's over there celebrating, high-fiving, happiest guy on the field that they won. And you win in a kicking game, you win on defense, and then you do enough on offense to win. Sometimes it goes the other way around. Sometimes they score 45 points, and the defense gives up 42. But, it's in this. He makes one play right here, and honestly, with everything else, it was one of the most important plays of the game down the sideline. So a good team does what they have to do to win. That's what a good team does. And, could they play better? Sure. And I'm sure that Coach Reed will be on them today and tomorrow, Wednesday, about, hey, here's the things we got to improve. And if they improve them, they'll be even harder to beat.
Hey, Spags, very, very, very successful against Shanahan. The stats from Hembo, I think he's like 4-0, let alone all the other shit that Spags' defense has been able to do to that Niners offense. Brock Purdy's only had 4 bad games in 3 years. I think the Chiefs have been the cause of a couple of them. What does he do, and what did he do against that Niners team, you think?
Well, I haven't seen the coaches' film, but looking at the Super Bowl, and we talked about this on the Inside the NFL. They play, the Chiefs play about a little over 35% man-to-man, which is a pretty high percentage. Last year in the Super Bowl, they played almost 67% man-to-man, so a lot more man-to-man. It's not all blitzing, but it's all man-to-man, and that loaded the box on the early runs and created some long yardage situations where Spags could play more man-to-man and more blitz on 3rd and long. And it looked like yesterday they played a lot of man-to-man, just didn't blitz as much. And, of course, they had the lead in the game, so maybe that was part of it too. But the man-to-man was tough on San Francisco's running game because they can't outnumber you. San Francisco does a great job of outnumbering people into formation by their motion and their formationing. And so if you're in zone, everybody kind of stays in their zone and you don't match the receivers. Now, playing man-to-man is hard because you got to make some adjustments to their motion and so forth. But if you can get it right, they can't outnumber you on those crack blocks and those perimeter plays and those C-gap runs that they're really good at by having an extra guy over there. So I think that was Spags' general philosophy. And then, honestly, their defensive players played good. They tackled well. They contained Purdy, and, Purdy had some tough plays.
Spags is a dog.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He really is. Love his energy, love the way he coaches. And the Chiefs will be one of those teams we assume are going to be around. D-Bud has a question for you.
Yeah, I know we're pretty much about a month out from Thanksgiving. I know that's when you say that's when the real football starts. That's when teams start to really separate themselves. But kind of approaching that halfway point in the season, are there any teams that kind of stand out as real contenders that you would say are going to be there in the end?
Well, I think the halfway point is a good time to take a good look at your team and say, okay, our records, whatever it is, halfway through here, this week, next week, whenever that time comes, what do we need to do in the second half of the season? And with the trade deadline still available as an option, a way to improve your team, once that passes, then you're pretty much you have what you have. But I think if there's a way to improve your team on the personnel side, that's something still worth looking at. And overall, from a schematic side, for example, Pittsburgh, going with Russell Wilson last night to kind of see what he gives them and what that is relative to Fields. And honestly, they'll probably need both guys, but at least Coach Tomlin has a good feel now And you got to give Coach Tomlin a lot of credit. I mean, that was as usual, he makes a lot of good moves and knows his team extremely well. But now he knows what he has with Wilson. He knows what he has with Fields, and that's a good thing to have halfway through the season and have two guys that you can count on. He didn't know that until last night for sure about Wilson. He knows a lot more now. So, I think there are some ways to improve your team. But when I say football starts after Thanksgiving, I think that's really in terms of, how the season's going to end. You look back at last year, Dallas had a great season, didn't play well in the playoff game, lost to Green Bay. Philadelphia, they were 10-1, whatever it was, didn't play well in December, didn't finish well. So you can have a great year and not play well after Thanksgiving, and really it's not a good year. On the other hand, you can just be kind of okay, like the Giants were in their 2 Super Bowl wins, like we were in our Super Bowl win on Super Bowl 36. But after Thanksgiving, play your best football and still come out on top. So that's why I say it's after Thanksgiving or when really the important games start, as long as you're not too far out of it. But I would say Detroit right now, one of the things I really like about Detroit is their physicality on both sides of the ball. They're very physical on offense. They're very physical on defense. They got a great offensive line. They're a strong team. And I think that physicality will serve them well. They're in a tough division. And, I always felt like when we were in the NFC East that the Giants getting through Philadelphia, Dallas, and Washington in those years, if whichever team survived, you had a really good chance because you're really battle tested. And there were multiple years in there. You could put San Francisco in that group too, even though they weren't in the NFC East. But whichever team could survive there for like almost that whole decade, that was the team that was standing at the end, whether it was Washington, San Francisco, the Giants. So that's I think it really hardens you, and certainly that NFC North is a tough division now, and the Lions are a very physical, strong team with a lot of skill if they can keep it going.
How about the Lions being one of 3 teams mentioned there that could potentially go?
Love it,
Way
Coach.
to go, Foxy!
Coach, I have a question for you. On any of your Super Bowl runs, did you ever lose a marquee player like an Aiden Hutchinson and still win the Super Bowl?
Well, in 1990,
of course,
we lost Phil Simms. And Jeff Hostetler came in as a backup quarterback, and we won the Super Bowl with Jeff. And so we won a different way. Jeff was a different quarterback than Phil, and we might have won with Phil too. I don't know, but Jeff played it. It was a different style of play, and I thought Coach Parcells did a great job of adapting the offensive style to Jeff's strengths. And we beat 3 really good teams, but particularly the Bills and the 49ers in 1990. Those are like 2 of the top. They were the 2 top teams in the AFC and the NFC. And it was a combination. It wasn't just Jeff. It wasn't just anybody. It was, West Virginia guys. Had to throw him in there for you.
Hell yeah, Hostile. I love him. Hell yeah,
Yes.
Love the whole family.
But yeah, so that would be a key one for sure.
Okay, you mentioned the NFC East there, talking about the NFC North back in the day, and you mentioned the Eagles. And if I didn't get your opinion on this, I would be an absolute dipshit. Did you know, like as the head coach, Daboll, and we'll talk GM Shane, you knew that a player was coming back trying to, like Saquon. Everybody on earth seemingly knew that Saquon was going to have a little bit more, ass in the pads, and he went bananas yesterday against the Giants, and he obviously saw everything that took place with Hard Knocks, and then he said going into the stadium into MetLife, he saw some fans burning his jersey, and he, a little added extra motivation. For you with your players going into a place that they had been, did you ever think about that? And then a player leaving, coming back against the Patriots, did you ever think about that? And what were your thoughts on Saquon yesterday having the most yards he's ever had at MetLife as a Philadelphia Eagle instead of a Giant?
Right. Well, it looked like in the Hard Knocks, it looked like I don't think Daboll wanted to get rid of Saquon. And I certainly don't think John Mara wanted to get rid of Saquon. I mean, this seemed like, kind of a general manager thing of, we don't think anybody will pay him. When kind of everybody in the league knew that he was going to go to the Eagles. But anyway, that seemed, I don't think everybody was on the same page on that.
Wow.
At least it didn't appear that way from Hard Knocks, which honestly, I'm surprised they even let that air with that kind of tone being on it. But anyway,
Agreed.
Yeah, sure, we dealt with that. We went into Buffalo with after Lawyer Malloy, and that was got beat 31-0, and then at the end of the year when they came back to Gillette, we won 31-0, and we had Brady come back in Tampa, and that was a real competitive game. But ultimately, Tom and Tampa beat us that year. So you've been in those situations. I mean, look, players and coaches change teams every year in the National Football League. That's just what it is. And they change in certain divisions. Sometimes they don't change in the same division. That's usually the case, but sometimes they do. But I think in Philadelphia's case, it was a great move by Howie and the Eagles to not only get a great player, but to take a great player from another team in your division. So that's kind of like a double hit there. It's like winning a double header instead of just one game. You don't only get a good player, but you take one from your competitors. So I thought that was a great acquisition by Philly. But yeah, that happens all the time. I think a little of that's overrated too. Like, oh, they know our plays, we know their plays, we know this guy, they know that guy. I think that part of it's a little bit overrated. But yeah, sure, it happens every week. Honestly, not to this extent. This was certainly a highlighted situation, but it happens every week. And with the Patriots, for sure, we couldn't keep all of our players every year, and some of our players left and went to other teams the following year, and you end up playing against them. And they were good players. It wasn't that we couldn't get rid of them; it's just can't afford to keep them all. But that's part of being on a good football team. The Giants thing, I don't really understand. He was their best player. For a couple $1 million more, they could have kept him, I guess. Instead they got a guard or somebody, I don't know. The offensive line doesn't look very good.
Bruce.
I mean, they're playing a guy at left tackle who shouldn't be playing left tackle. Evan Neal is drafted in the first round. He doesn't play. They have some UFA guards that are pretty suspect. It's a tough line. And honestly, I thought that, the quarterback is trying to hang in there. It's been tough sledding.
Good luck, Giants fans.
Good
luck, Giants fans.
Giants 100.
It'll turn around.
This would be a big one for him this week in Pittsburgh, right? They play Pittsburgh coming up Monday night.
Danny's starting.
Right.
Right.
So,
Is he playing offensive line? I think he's what he's saying.
Left tackle.
Yeah, they'd be able to figure. All right, let's pivot away from the Giants. I hear Bruce in his entire life demising back there. Bruce, it's going to be okay, pal.
All right.
You guys are going to be okay.
It won't be, but, it's fine.
Hey, Bruce, I appreciate that Coach Belichick said the same exact thing we did while we were watching Hard Knocks. We're saying, I can't believe we're able to see all this.
Yeah.
It was the best Hard Knocks by far. We were watching it going, how the hell do we have insight? I don't know if any other team will sign up for that. Legit. But NFL Films did a great job. It was captivating. Very captivating this year.
Yes. Yeah, no, NFL Film, look, they do a great job of that. But in the end, the teams had the approval on that. So at least that's the way I understand it. I don't know. But anyway.
Well, at least my teams. We had understand. Mara wasn't the one, I guess, or was he the one that had the final say? Because he's like, I would like everybody to know that I did not like this. Say, go ahead, AJ. Go ahead, AJ.
Coach, when you look around the league,
that's
you
probably
see
what it was. Mara's like, I got take one. He goes to the Eagles. I might jump off. Oh my. Don't do it. And then the NFL Films people are like, Mr. Mario, you want to see this? He's like, yeah, let them know that I'm not happy.
In fact, use that as the trailer.
Yeah, put that in 3 episodes. If you can. Go ahead, AJ. Sorry.
Coach, sorry. I was thinking about Jared Goff. We're talking about the Lions. Have you seen, when you watch that dude play, I know watching a quarterback play, the guy seems so confident, so comfortable, and he throws the ball into windows that, a lot of guys wouldn't even attempt. When you see a quarterback playing that well, defensively, how do you come after him? Some guys you want to blitz them, some guys you want to drop 8. How do you develop a game plan for a guy that seems to be playing so confident right now?
Well, AJ, I think you go to the Tampa game. I think Tampa, did a good job against them, and that, that's the way to play him is to be able to get some pressure up the middle and get him off the spot. Don't let him stand back there and run past them. You don't want to be, behind him. You want to be right into his face, right up the middle. And Tampa did a good job of that, and ultimately they were able to handle him. So I think he's playing very well. He's got a lot of weapons, but. When a player's comfortable like that in the pocket, I think you got to try to get him off the spot that he wants to throw from.
God damn! He's breaking records.
Yeah, crushing.
He is breaking records. And that Johnson offense is a lot of fun, too. I mean, it is
so much fun to watch.
He's like the perfect quarterback for the offense, it feels like.
100%.
And then the rest of the NFL wouldn't hire Bill Belichick to be a head coach or this guy to be a head coach.
Yeah.
So now he is still there for another year. None of it makes sense. Congrats to the Detroit Lions, though. Right. And their chant around town is Jared Goff, so he's showing up for
at every sporting event.
Every single one. Good for you guys. Culture change immediately upon MCDC and Holmes getting up there. Let's talk about.
Well, and Pat, I would just say I think he's playing a lot better than he was, with the Rams, and even when he first got to the Lions. In New England, we played him a couple of years ago, and it was like 31-0, and he looks like a lot better player. Obviously, the team's better. The offensive line is very good. I think it's the best line in the league with, Sewell, Decker, and Ragnow. Those three guys are combined, really good cornerstones for the offensive line. And so that helps everything when you can handle those edge rushers and you can be 3-on-2 inside on a 4-man rush. So, but they're running the ball well. They get good movement on the line of scrimmage, and their backs are both very good. They're complementary backs. They're explosive. Montgomery's strong. He's a tough guy. Get the ball in the end zone. And Gibbs is a home run guy in both the running game and a passing game. So it's tough to defend. But I think if you look at the Tampa game, that's the best way to do it. And I think teams will probably try to play him more like Tampa did going forward. At least I would.
I think they need to get the ball to Penn A little bit more.
That'd be good.
Get the ball to Penn A a little bit more.
Keep trying those trick plays.
All right, D-Bud has a question for you, Coach, about tonight.
Yeah, speaking of
the trick plays are great, except the fake punt almost cost them. Yep. So, but in the end, it doesn't matter because they made the field goal. But if things hadn't worked out, we'd be talking about the fake punt. So.
Just a little heads up. Live by the sword, die by the sword up there in Detroit. He's been very aggressive. This was a lot. There was a lot going on this one.
Throw this one away.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Drive is tough.
Yeah,
they scored next play, right?
You didn't run a lot of fakes, did you? Normally, very good teams aren't.
Yeah. So in '79, when I got to Giants as a special teams coach, I ran a bunch of them, and then I think we were maybe 5 for 5 on them, and then I ran a throwback to Jennings, to the punter, and that didn't work out so well, and he was going across the field. He got hit, and it was the whole yard sale over there on the Rams bench. His helmet, ear pads. He was over there by the cheerleaders and the team doctors. And when Coach Perkins, he walked over to check on him, and he came back, and Coach kind of looked at me and said, you call that one again, and there'll be another special teams coach here. And so I did actually call one similar to that. I called one with Mormon in the Pro Bowl.
Oh, my God. That was you?
Oh, no.
Sean Taylor?
Yeah.
Why'd you do that to him? Sean Taylor.
Well, Mormon's really fast. He ran him against us at Buffalo. I mean, he's really fast. He ran like 4 or 5. But he couldn't get away from Sean Taylor. That was
I'd say, Coach.
That was that lit up everything. So that was another one that the special teams coach called it. I called it Brad, and I say, Brad, I don't think we should run that anymore. That was really Brad's call. Okay. No, I got to take credit for it too.
Okay, rest in peace, Sean Taylor.
Yeah.
And also, I think rest in peace to most fakes in Pro Bowls going forward.